telling people what you need. You're watching my channel. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit the like button, and you can also donate via PayPal, which I'll put in the comment section below. Black American fighters have a difficult job. Um, just unplugging. Let me go into this and say, as with anything, any combat, there's always a counter or a balance to anything. So, if a guy's a great jabber, there's a way to counter that jab and neutralize it. If a guy's a great mover, there's a way to slow him down and stop him from moving. If a guy is a great power puncher, there's a way to neutralize him at certain angles so that he can't land a power punch and take away his power. If a guy is very quick, very fast, there's a way to neutralize him with timing and with controlling of distance to take away his speed. If a guy is very skilled, there is a way to neutralize that. So, to be honest with you, in boxing, I do not believe, and I am not of, and as a fighter, I have to be this way. I do not believe that there is anything such as most difficult in anything. You know, there's no such thing as that. What there is there is a problem set in front of you, and you have to find a way to get the solution to that problem. I always like to talk about Floyd Mayweather because that's a style that I would like to beat. That's why I think about him all the time. And how would I beat Floyd Mayweather, for example? He's not unbeatable. But you have to have uh, certain abilities to be able to beat him, I believe. But having said that, I have seen very slow fighters beat very quick fighters, very fast fighters. Carlos Baldomir versus Zab Judah. Now, fighters with unique sets of skill sets and timing, they're either called awkward or they're called very, the word I'm thinking of is, they use two adjectives. They use two adjectives to describe fighters who have unique sets of skills and timing. They call them either awkward fighters, which is the negative descriptor, or they call them crafty, skilled fighters. Okay? So, when they want to praise them, they call them crafty, skilled fighters. But when they want to put them down, they call them awkward. If my skill set and how I implement it complements your skill set, we're going to have a very competitive fight, especially if, you know, the styles match up. All right? In matchmaking, people want to have exciting fights because boxing is entertainment. So you want to have usually fighters who sort of complement other fighters. But if the fighters don't complement each other, what happens a lot of times is that you have fights in which a particular style of fighting has difficulty with another style of fighting. Okay? And what you hear the fighters say, instead of making adjustments, is, oh, this guy, he's a runner, or this guy, you know, he's walking through my punches, he must be taking steroids, or something like that, right? Now, I'm going to say this, and I'll be straight with you guys. I do not believe that the Afro-American or the Black American style of fighting is the most difficult style to face. I do not believe that. It is very nuanced. There is a lot you can learn by uh, utilizing that style. But I have seen fighters who've had much, much more simplified, fundamental, rudimentary skills beat very skilled Black American fighters. And the perfect example that comes to mind, not to say that he was that basic or fundamental, but it's Rocky Marciano. Okay? Rocky Marciano faced Ezra Charles, the greatest, I believe, light heavyweight of all time. Rocky Marciano also faced Jersey Joe Walcott, who was underrated when it comes to skill and ability. Underrated, just brilliant fighter. He also faced Joe Louis, and Joe Louis was at the end of his toe. And then he faced the very great Mongoose. I mean, one of the greatest fighters of all time, considered by many the top light heavyweight of all time, right? Undefeated light heavyweight champion. Okay? And this man was doing it in his late 30s to almost 50 years old. Okay? So, his style, not to say that Rocky didn't implement certain critical principles, fundamentals of boxing, and he also wasn't clever and sharp and smart, but I'm just saying his style was somewhat rudimentary, right? So, if Rocky Marciano was beating these Black American fighters, very skilled, slick, competent, we're talking about all-time great Black American fighters, why it is that I will say that that's the most difficult style? A style is most difficult for he who is unwilling. Listen to me. We know this all the time. This is a mental construct. And again, boxing is 90% mental. A style or anything is only as difficult as one perceives it. Okay? Remember, preparation in boxing is a step-by-step process. And the only reason someone would tell you that any style in boxing is the most difficult is because they don't know how to approach it. Once you know, boxing's all about what you know. Once you know how to approach something, it no longer is seen as this big, colossal monolith and a tremendous, difficult thing for you to face. Isn't that not so? So in boxing, some people put people up, punchers and all these people up on a plateau. But in boxing, this is what I love about boxing. In boxing, the challenge of this is not one which is insurmountable. This is how a fighter thinks. You cannot think any other way, and that is why they succeed. I'm gonna give you a little quote from Floyd Mayweather. He says, "All work is easy work. All work is easy work." Now I'm gonna break to you guys why it is, no matter what style you're facing, there's an antidote to it. Okay? Shout out to Gabrielle. Let me see if I got you right. Squarati? Is it Squarati? All right, now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about, people talk about the Black American style, but there are many different types of Black American style. It's semi-slick, it's semi, You know, there are pressure fighters. There are all kinds of styles in the Black American style. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is I see Gabriel trying to troubleshoot, and yes, some of these things are correct. Um, to beat a style that's, let's say slick, okay, and a counterpunching style, you make it rough, yes. You use your timing, correct. You can bully the person if you can bully them. Sometimes you can't bully them. You use unconventional things, that's correct, because they're classical boxers. That's correct. And yep, they have it because I think they're technically sound. They care about defense first. No, 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 they're not. It's very difficult to face any style which is a defensive style. It doesn't have to be Black American. I'll give you an example. Nicolino Loche, Argentinian fighter. You know, some people say those Argentinian fighters, man, they always come with something different. Carlos Baldomir was very awkward, right? Or as I said before, very crafty and skillful. Um, so it isn't limited to the Black American style. You know, it's a style that's presented in front of you. But a lot of people don't realize a couple things about boxing. So I'm going to try and break it down and just give a little bit of the knowledge to the knowledge pool. Those who know boxing know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't, well, so one of the most critical things in boxing that once you can set it really works in your favor is the pace of a fight. Let me say it again. One of the things that's very critical in boxing is the pace of a fight. So you will find fighters who are thinking fighters, fighters uh, who are counterpunching fighters. Okay, particularly use that because it kind of covers a lot of the Black American style and certain slick boxers who, through time, whether it's the Mexican fighters or Argentinian fighters or um, fighters from Europe, who employed this particular type of style, the slick side, beside Tony Canzoneri, these kinds of guys. Not Tony Canzoneri, sorry, my bad. What's the guy named? Luke Tindler and these guys. You know, all these guys who use the slick style. You know, the shell. Okay. What you have to understand is that pace, the pace of a fight, could turn a fight in your favor or not. If you push a fight at either a very high pace or a very low pace, let's say, for example, you are a counterpuncher and you want to take a walk, you know, then come back and engage where you want to engage, let's say. A low pace fight works in your favor, right? However, if you are pressuring a guy and you want to keep the heat on him and you don't want him to breathe and you don't want him to think too much, a high pace fight works in your favor, right? So now the key is to get the fight to be in your favor with the pace, right? So tempo, or the pace at which a fight happens, can dictate a winner. Of course, you have trained for that. You train to have a high tempo fight. You train to be uncomfortable and to fight at high energy, high pace, high activity, and to bring high pressure for 12, 15, 20, 40 rounds, as it's the case, or as long as the fight goes, right? So, pace, all right? Gabriel Squarati said, Maidana gave Floyd problems, bullying Floyd, then Floyd reversed that aggression, letting Maidana smother himself. Floyd Mayweather, how to beat Floyd. How do you beat Floyd Mayweather? Okay. What I've learned is with Floyd, Rocky Marciano was a killing machine with not incredible skill set. A good skill-wise boxer with a lot of power and stubborn. I get what you say. Yeah. Let me talk about Floyd first, and I'll talk about Rocky. Now, there are a couple things that a lot of people don't know about Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano was a quick learner, and he would adapt. to your style. If you ever notice, Rocky Marciano got dropped in fights, but he didn't get dropped again. Okay? Which means if he's not getting dropped again, the boxer's not getting the opportunity, or even if he has the opportunity to do the same thing he did before, he's not successful with it. Which means Rocky made an adjustment somewhere. Okay? So, as I try to explain people, Rocky Marciano was a very, very cerebral fighter. Was very, very smart. But because of his limitations, he was short for heavyweight. He had short arms for heavyweight. He knew the only way to close that distance, he might have to take some punishment, but he would try to reduce that as much as possible by his stance and his movement and how he slipped and slid to the inside. And in addition, his ridiculous conditioning. He was in ridiculous shape. He was ridiculously conditioned. And he always had a game plan. Rocky always had a game plan. Go to the body, slow these guys down. Go to the body, slow these guys down. And come up over the top. You know, he used feints to get to the inside, you know. Oh, you're Italian. That's great. Rocky Marciano was underrated in terms of very, very, very intelligent, cerebral fighter. And you just listen to him break down fights. You listen to him. He had a pretty good jab, by the way. He had a pretty good jab. Educated jab. So, yeah, okay. He was limited, you know, in terms of excessive skills. He wasn't anything, you know, he wasn't anything flashy or anything like that. But how he was able to prevail against much more faster, skilled, you know, it was again his conditioning. All right, you put him down, he's going to get back up. Right. So and he's getting back up, having recalculated. Okay, I know why I walked into that. I understand what he did to me. Because he's slower than the guy. You know, a lot of the guys that he faced was much quicker than him, much faster than him. You know, could do more things than him. But what he did extremely well. Okay? And there's a video on YouTube that breaks him down. And you see, actually, he counterpunched guys. He did a little bit of shifting off to the side and slipping certain punches. He even shifted a little bit. He used little things. He's very crafty in there. You know, that's why he was able to get Jersey Joe Walker out faster than the first time. He was a knockout artist, obviously. But he worked towards getting a knockout. You know, he did the right things. You go to the body. You weaken your opponent. You go to the body. And the thing that you can't beat him with was the pace. The pace at which he had a fight going, he kept that pace going. You know, so he tired his opponent as well. So it was those kinds of things about Rocky Marciano that made him a very effective pressure fighter. In terms of his stance and etc. as well. And there's a guy that you had to kill him to beat him, you know. So I use Rocky Marciano as an example because he was a great heavyweight. And people who don't want to put him up there, you gotta put him up there. Okay, you gotta put him up there. The guys that he beat were no ordinary guys. This is why, you know, Rocky's considered one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. I'm not going to say he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. That's up to you, of course. I'm not going to say he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. But some people try to minimize his accomplishments by saying that these guys were old. Jersey Joe Walker was the heavyweight champion of the world. He beat Ezra Charles 35 or 36. He wasn't in his prime when he beat Ezra Charles. Okay? Lost to Ezra Charles, I think, once before. So, you can't disrespect what the guy did. Now, yes, okay, Archie Moore was not a thriving heavyweight. He never wasn't, he never accomplished being a heavyweight champion. Ezra Charles did. Joe Louis did. Jersey Joe Walker did. And Jersey Joe Walker was the heavyweight champion of the world when Rocky Marciano beat him. So you can't take that away from Jersey Joe. And so stop with the he was too old. Stop that nonsense. Okay? You can't apply that to any of the fighters except Joe Louis. You can apply that to Joe Louis. Okay? Because Joe Louis was no longer heavyweight champion, 1. 2, Joe Louis came back just to make some money. Okay? Let's be real. All right? He was going to retire and go out in the sunset undefeated. He came back. He lost to Ezra Charles, and after that, he beat Lee Sabal. Yeah, he beat Jimmy Bivens, but Jimmy Bivens wasn't really a heavyweight. You know what I mean? So let's just be real with it. Joe Louis uh, was done when Rocky faced him, and Rocky was kind of doing him a favor, giving him a paycheck, kind of like Henry Armstrong was really done when Sugar Ray Robinson faced him. All right, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson carried him. But Joe Louis was still doing some stuff early on. He was doing some stuff with Rocky, but I mean, come on. Rocky cried after he beat Joe Louis because that was his hero. So but moving Joe Louis aside, moving Archie Moore aside, it's a great win with Jersey Joe Walker, and was a great win against Ezra Charles twice. Right? He faced Jersey Joe twice. He faced Ezra Charles twice to show that he beat them. So you got to give him credit for that. You got to give him credit for that. Those guys were top tier guys. And Ezra really overachieved because Ezra was not really a heavyweight either. But he became heavyweight champion, so you gotta give Rocky his props for that. You know what I'm saying? Now they said it was a weak era. I wouldn't say it was a weak era at all because these guys, Ezra Charles and Jersey Joe, they were not weak heavyweights. You put them in any era, and they give heavyweights all kinds of hell. You know what I'm saying? So no, I don't think so. But I do think that he did not face a lot of top tier guys. No. That's a reasonable critique. I mean, most of his career he was facing guys who, didn't belong in the ring with any top tier fighter. But for most of his career, he wasn't world champion, right? So it's kind of excusable. When he did become world champion, he was fighting top tier guys, and the top tier guys it wasn't a lot of top tier guys because he didn't stay champ for very long, and he didn't fight. There wasn't a lot of top tier guys to fight anyway. So, there were top tier guys to fight, but he just didn't remain champ for very long because it was Nino Valdez. He never faced him. There were some guys coming up on the horizon. He didn't face every single top tier guy. He just faced the very top of them, the very top of them. And again, fair enough, fair play to him. So I think he's one of the great heavyweight champions of all time. I just think that he didn't face as many as say Joe Louis faced more. Ali faced more. You think of anybody actually out there. Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. I mean, even Mike Tyson faced more, right? He didn't win all his fights, but he faced more. You get what I'm saying? I didn't say he beat all. I didn't say he beat more. I said he faced more. So it's one of those things where Rocky was like his name. He's solid. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, you think about it. Who? You saw this guy go through adversity and prevail. So you can't turn around and say, well, this guy would beat Rocky, and this guy. You can't just say that. You can't just say that. And you got to put some respect on the man's name. You know what I'm saying? You really don't know because he's never been beaten. You know what I mean? So, because you have to, a fight with Rocky is a fight of attrition. It's going to be a long night. And if you get your hand raised, great. But he's going to do everything in his power to get his hands raised. That was the mentality of the dude. And he trained like that. So, it's not easy for me to say, well, this guy would dust Rocky or that guy. You're underestimating Rocky. Rocky was never going to be an easy fight for nobody. And this is what a lot of these guys came into the ring thinking because they were more skilled or whatever. They never analyzed the guy properly. You have to, when you're dealing with opposition, you got to analyze him. It's like Oscar Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson, right? If Shakur Stevenson underestimates Oscar Valdez will dust the floor with him. But I know Shakur's not underestimating Oscar Valdez, not underestimating his heart, not underestimating how he would love to make the fight a fight of attrition. Now, against Rocky, how do you keep a relentless fighter like that off? Angles. Boxing's about angles. And he's going to learn your angles because he's coming after you. But you have to set new angles and make adjustments. So that's the key. Again, I'm going to talk about Floyd Mayweather here, and then I'm going to talk about how to beat him. Floyd Mayweather was a guy that faced a number of relentless fighters. Guys he couldn't stop, and they just kept coming. Okay? Jesus Chavez, Carlos Baldomir, Jose Luis Castillo. They just kept coming. He couldn't stop them, nothing. Marcos Maidana, Miguel Cotto. Relentless fighters. They're not deterred by you punching them. Okay? And the way how he was able to defeat all of these guys was with using angles. Even when he's fighting on the inside, he's using angles. He's slightly adjusting the angle at which he's at all the time. Okay? And for that, you have to have active feet. Let me say it again. You have to have active feet. Your feet must be able, your foundation is your feet. Okay? And you must be able to adjust the angle of your approach all the time. And that keeps your opponent having to readjust his angle as well to get positioning. Because remember, to throw a punch, you have to have positioning, right? And if I'm in position before you are, and I catch you off the wrong angle, which is what Floyd basically, that's what he uses. He catches guys going down the wrong line, and he counterpunches them, okay? And he'll lead also off the wrong line, because a lot of things are illusion with Floyd. You think he's here, but he's not here in space, and then he springs the trap, and he throws the punch on you, okay? He's trap sets like crazy. He's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. That's why Stephen A. Smith calls him a magician. Floyd could stop Baldomir, in my opinion. He just injured one of his hands. I think is right. He just outboxed him using his left and his feet. No, actually, Floyd thought Baldomir was very awkward. Very awkward fighter. You know, he's barreling in, but he's barreling in off center line, leading with either hand. It got pretty decent defense, snaps back, and stuff like that. Yeah, Floyd caught him with a couple of uppercuts, it looked real pretty, and then he rolled under, or rolled around him, or he was hitting with the lead right and rolling under Baldomir's hook. Yeah, but Baldomir is very, very, very tough, and he's very, very solid. The guy who knocked out Baldomir was Canelo Alvarez when Baldomir was 40-something years old. Baldomir hadn't been stopped before that. He a big welterweight, and he's fought guys like Joshua Clottey, Sab Super Judah, who he light you up. And, he walked through Zab Judah's punches, and he was like, hit me on the chin. He was telling Baldomir. He was telling Judah, hit me on the chin, and he was walking through their shots. You know what I'm saying? Baldomir, no, man. You can't just stop Baldomir like that. People talk about Margarito versus Baldomir. I would have loved to see that because they were two big welterweights. And Baldomir, like I said before, he's very awkward. And ask Vernon Forrest is dead, but if Vernon Forrest was alive, he would testify to that. It was a very difficult fight for Vernon Forrest. They gave him a unanimous decision, but that was a closer fight. Baldomir was leading lead rights on Vernon Forrest all night long. All night. He's not the heaviest puncher in the world, Baldomir, but he's them Argentinian boxers, man. Them Argentinian boxers was problems, man. If it wasn't for Floyd, Baldomir might have reigned as welterweight champion for a pretty long time. Might have faced Margarito too, with them loaded gloves. And you might have been surprised how he would have handled Margarito, because Baldomir, he has a way of getting into range, which is very deceptive. You have to be a counterpuncher to deal with Baldomir. A guy like Margarito, Baldomir gets right down the heart of Margarito and might even push Margarito back. Yeah, because of his style. You can't catch. You're not catching Baldomir with a jab. You're not going to just jab him. You might land some lead right hands. You might land a couple, but he's tough. He's really tough, and he's big. It's like a barrel. But anyways, my point anyway is that relentless guys coming at Floyd, that's nothing new. He knows how to deal with that style, again, because of the angles he cuts on those guys. And he's able, if you're coming to Floyd, he loves that. He loves that because it's like he don't got to do much. He just got to shift a little bit, feint you here, feint you there, and then counterpunch you. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, how to beat Floyd Mayweather. Okay, so I've been studying this guy and his style for a while, and I learned a couple things about him. And this is where his vulnerabilities lie. Do understand, he constantly adjusts as well. He's Rocky, him, Andre Ward, they make adjustments. Okay? Um, so you're gonna have an opportunity to catch him. And you're gonna have an opportunity to catch him early. Okay? He at times walks into traps. Almost in every fight, Floyd has been caught by somebody. All right, Pacquiao caught him in round 4 and 6. Mosley caught him in the second round. Marcos Maidana caught him in the third and the second fight, and in the first fight, caught him in round 1. You're gonna catch him. Okay, you're gonna be able to land something on him. Okay, in those moments where he's gathering data and he's underestimating you somewhat, because that's when you can catch him. Now, even if you do catch him early, do understand he's going to recover. Okay? So, one of the things that you can be almost certainly guaranteed of is, as much as they call him, the greatest defensive fighter of all time, which I don't agree with. I think he's just the best fighter of all time when it comes to defense and offense and the sweet science. I think he's the best at it at present. But even though his defense is very good, okay, you're not going to catch him with, it's very rare you catch him with 2 shots, one shot after the other, right? But having said that, to beat this guy, you cannot go in there thinking that you're going to knock him out. I heard Sugar Ray Leonard say, "I'm going to knock you out, Floyd." I'm laughing. I'm like, that's the wrong attitude. You're not going to beat this guy by knocking him out. You're just not going to do it. Because, like Canelo, you're not going to knock out Canelo. That's not happening. All right? The reason being, these guys are defensive savants. They have certain moves that you just can't, I'm going to give you one of the moves that Floyd does. He dips down to his right, and he covers everything up. You're not going to hit him. You can't hit him if he's covering everything up. Canelo, if you hurt Canelo, Canelo's going to cover up this way. He covers everything up this way. Everything. There's nothing exposed. You have to feint him to get him out of position. They cover themselves up. Joshua Clottey, he was never going to knock him out. Nobody knocks out Joshua Clottey because he got long arms. He covers everything up. When you cover everything up, there's nothing to hit. Okay? So that's the go-to. So that's their safety zone. Let's say a defensive fighter always has a safety zone somewhere. And that's his safety zone. He just covers everything up. Rinky Wright. Hard to hit Rinky Wright. Why? Because he's the 2-guard. He knows how to cover up himself with the 2-guard. You know what I'm saying? So, to beat Floyd, first things first. First things first. Okay? You got to, you got to get him with a false sense of confidence coming at you. You're not going to try and chase him down, and you're not going for the KO. So the first thing is, we're not going for the KO. That's not our focus. To beat this guy, we're going to beat him round by round. Okay, you can't think of trying to beat him by knocking him out. So Sugar Ray Leonard, that's a bad idea. You're not knocking that dude out. Thomas Hearns was smart enough to understand that. He said, I'm not trying to knock this kid out. I'm gonna use my jab. I'm gonna try to keep it long. Now, if the knockout come, it come. 2, like I said, you're not trying to get Floyd. You're not chasing him down. Don't chase him down. He's more vulnerable coming to you than he is going away from you. And most knockouts, go and watch it. Go pay attention. Most knockouts come with counterpunching. It's a counterpunch that stuns a guy and then brings a knockout. Okay? So most of the time when knockouts happen, opponents are coming or about to attack their opponent. Alright? Because they're open. You got to get a guy open. So, if you're going to outplay Floyd Mayweather, you need to make him come to you. You got to make him come to you. Don't go to him. Now, initially, you have to strike first. You have to be first. You have to strike him first so that he will want to come to you. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. Floyd Mayweather versus Miguel Cotto. Cotto caught him with a really beautiful left jab, busted his nose, right? Floyd, after that, changed modes, and he was like in beast mode, and he was going after Cotto. And that's when Cotto was able to paint him up. He kept on counter-punching him with that jab. He kept on hitting him with his shots, and he was able to tag him up in round, I believe it was round 7 or 8. He tagged him up real nice and good. So at the end of the round, Floyd was still very aggressive. He got very aggressive, very vicious, and he was just coming after Cotto. And he was walking through certain shots, but he was getting tagged. He was getting tagged. Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather. Logan Paul comes out with a flurry of shots. Big, very aggressive, Floyd, uses his defense. Nothing really lands. But Logan is playing a mind game with Floyd. He wants Floyd to come get him. Logan is playing a mind game with Floyd. He wants Floyd to come get him. He wants Floyd to come get that get back. And that's how the rest of the fight goes, because Logan almost got knocked out. But the point is, you want him walking you down. You want to flip the script on him. You want to be the counterpuncher. Okay. Now remember, this dude makes adjustments. So you can't come with the same old game plan or the same old little tricks that you usually do, because he knows all those tricks. So you can't come with that. But I'm just saying, this is one of the ways to beat him. You got to flip the script on him. You got to make him come to you. You got better opportunities to counterpunch him when you do. Now, just remember, though, he's a counterpuncher. So he can set a trap for you as he's walking you down. And you throw a punch, and he snaps back off an angle, and he comes back with something, right? But think about it. Zab Judah versus Floyd Mayweather. What happened? Zab was the aggressor initially, and Zab got Floyd to come to him. But Zab wasn't smart enough to understand, because Zab is a guy, like Paulie Malignaggi says, he don't really fight that well going backwards. He can, but he doesn't really fight well going backwards. That was Zab's little Achilles heel. You want to provoke him. You want to get him to want to get the get back, and then you want him coming to you. Okay. The next thing to beat Floyd Mayweather. Now, these things they're not 100% guaranteed to work, but you got to have a game plan, and this is the game plan I would use. If you look at most of the fighters, Floyd gets them provoked. That's why before a press conference, Floyd talked all that smack with Oscar De La Hoya. He talked all that trash with Oscar De La Hoya. You know why? He wanted Oscar so provoked that Oscar would want to come and get him and waste a whole bunch of energy. And we know Floyd got that defense. Okay? He wasted a whole bunch of energy throwing a whole set of useless punches on Floyd when he should have stuck to his jab. He should have stayed with that jab for the rest of the fight. Somebody with a very good jab, a consistent jab, also gives Floyd a little more problems than you anticipate. So you got a good jab, a solid jab, and I'm not talking about a strong jab and a jab that's very repetitive. It has to be unpredictable. You pop it at certain points in time. Marcus Maidana had a very good jab, by the way. When he's moving backwards and Floyd's coming at him, he'd pop the jab to protect himself at just the right time. And Floyd would walk into the jab, or sometimes he'd slip the jab and have to get out of the way of the jab, which would abort either his attack or delay his attack just enough for Marcus Maidana to get out of the way. Okay? So he had a very good jab. And then Miguel Cotto has an excellent jab. Now, Oscar De La Hoya actually has an excellent jab too, and at certain points in time, he actually bloodied Floyd's nose, and he actually had some success against Floyd, walking Floyd back to the ropes. But he wasn't very consistent with his jab, and that's because Floyd will take away your jab if you don't pay attention. You cannot be throwing a jab regularly. He will time your jab. Okay? So the jab, when we say a good jab, we're talking about an unpredictable jab. A jab that just pops out of there, out of nowhere. Just like that. Boom. Okay? It's not a regular jab. If you're a jabber and you're a regular jabber, you always jabbing all the time, at a regular, he's going to time you. Okay? So a guy like Sugar Ray Robinson, with a regular jab, he's always jabbing too frequently, he'll time you. Okay? Doubling and tripling up your jab. Andre Ward understands this. You don't always throw the same jab either. You vary the jab. You vary the angle at which you throw your jab. You can throw the jab here. You can throw it straight. Okay? You can extend it, pop it like Lennox Lewis. Okay? There are different ways to throw the jab. Gabriel Scorati says, after he's mad, you have to prepare because he doesn't always use power, but he has power. Yes, he has power. He's a tricky guy, man. He's very tricky. That's why Timothy Bradley said tricky. Floyd schooled Oscar and negated his jab. Yeah, he took away Oscar's jab, actually, by countering him above and below the jab. So he was hitting him to the head, and then he was catching him to the muscles underneath the jab to paralyze it. Yes, Floyd timed Oscar counters. Yep. So that's the other thing you have to do to beat this guy. Okay? Now, again, you want to have a proper game plan. The other thing is, Floyd is a guy who's looking to outpoint you. But he's also looking to beat you up and slow you down. Okay? So, he's cool with just outpointing you. But he's not just hitting you pity-pat points. He's not trying to get pity-pat points. He's literally putting some good leverage in his punches. And he's literally leveraging in those body shots. He's a nasty body puncher. Underrated body puncher. And he also does some very safe body punches like jabbing from the outside to the solar plexus. Okay? Now, that's been around forever. The way how he does it is unique to Floyd. But my point is, he's a smart guy. He's cashing in on the body from the minute he starts a fight with you, he's trying to slow you down. He's trying to break you down. Now, the thing with Floyd is, with a fighter like that, you need to have great body punching. Not good, great body punching. You need to be a great body puncher. You can't just go with the signature body punches like the left hook to the body. Forget all that. You also need to be able to have a nice little jab. And you need a jab to his chest or to his solar plexus. Do not jab to the head. You'll never get that. He already gives you this. This is all he gives you. The blade. He'll give you a blade, and he's coming to you this way, right? So you hardly have anything. You might get a little something on the side here, right? So what you want to really do is, when the blade is here, you got to be a good jabber. What I mean by a good jabber, you can't be predictable. You're waiting for him to open up. So it's in a counter, you're going to catch him. You're not going to catch him when he's defensive. You're not going to catch him when he's defensive. You're wasting your time. So you have to open him up. How do you do that? You have to use throwaway punches. You have to throw away a punch so that he'll use his defense, use the shoulder, so he'll open up. And when he opens, you catch him. And use a jab so he doesn't counterpunch you, especially if you have a longer thing. You're going from low to high, like Marcos Maidana, and that'll back him up. And once he's backing up, now you can attack him. But remember, Marcos Maidana understood the overhand right is a kryptonite to the shell because you're going over the top of this. Okay? And the only way he's able to negate that is either by raising the elbow, the arm, so you hit this, okay, which opens up underneath here, or he rocks back, creating more arc. You have to arc all the way down. And he takes the steam off the punch, right? But remember, again, you can't only think about that. You can't think like, you see how I just gave you a situation breakdown. All I'm saying is the game plan. I'm not going to tell you about the specifics. I'm just going into specifics there, but you never go into specifics. You're just doing the game plan. So whatever your skill set is, the game plan is get him to come to you. Don't go for the KO. Have a good jab. Work on your jab. Okay, work on your stick. And here's the other one. Body punching. You heard Sugar Ray Leonard say, I'll try and attack his body. But how? You cannot body punch this guy when he's in the defensive mode. There's nothing to hit. You got to get him to open up. You have to time him when he's opening up because he does a lot of feints. But you got to understand, and that's how he protects himself, by feinting as if he's coming at you. Feinting and then he comes at you. Okay? But you got to watch for when he's opening up because there's a window that happens. Mosley was able to catch him because the other thing, you got to get him overconfident. It only happens in the early parts of the fight. That's why you catch him early. Because he's underestimating you and gathering data as he's fighting you. Okay? And when he's overconfident, that's when you can catch him. That's why Mosley caught him. But like I said before, you ain't going to knock this guy out just like that. All right? He's not going nowhere. He got a chin. Okay? Marcos Maidana caught him with a crisp, clean, straight counter right hand. Straight down the pike in the third round of the second fight. He went nowhere. This guy doesn't go anywhere. Okay? So, you catch him, that's great. But that is a setup to get back. He will want to get back at you. And he won't do it in the same round necessarily, even though he may. But he's going to come at you. And that's where you have to be smart when he's coming at you. Okay? So, and when he's coming at you, that's when he's open up. And that's when you're going to go to the body. And you're going to, particularly the jab, you want to get it to his chest here or to his solar plexus. Don't go for the head. All right? Chest or solar plexus. Remember, he's smart. And he's going to make an adjustment to that. So you have to, especially early in the fight, this is when you have most of your opportunities. And this is your chance to be ahead. You want to be ahead on the scorecards. You want to be ahead. You know, you catch him with a dramatic shot. You know, you want to be ahead. You're probably not going to put him down. So you just want to make sure you emphatically win a round. And once you put those things in the bank, and now just the fundamentals you have to use, just with your fundamental skills, you're hoping that he comes to you. The moment he's trying to back off and stuff, you got to catch him with something again. So this is the key with the game plan you have to put rounds in the bank. It's going to be body punching. You got to have a good jab. And I'm not talking about a predictable jab. And if you can throw the jab a number of different ways, even better. You're not trying to get him knocked out. You're not trying to penetrate that defense. You're not trying to do that. Be first early. And finally, you want to be able to have a little bit of versatility. I don't know what kind of fighter you may be. You may be a pressure fighter or whatever. But you got to mix it up. Miguel Cotto wasn't just a pressure fighter. He was applying pressure at certain points in times. And at other times, he was backing up and letting Floyd come to him. And playing like he was the vulnerable one. So that Floyd would bite on the bait. Alright? It helps that you're able to fight at any distance. It really does. But if you can't fight at any distance, you fight on the outside. Whatever you do well, keep on doing it well as you can. Because you got to keep him off of you if you're a long-range guy. And if you're an in-fighter, you have to close the distance to find him. But don't close the distance. Make him close the distance. Make him have to close the gap or get just close enough so you can slide in. You know? Make him come to you. So the key here is make him come to you. I'm not saying he's not a good pressure fighter. I'm not saying he's not good at cutting off the ring. But I know you have more opportunities because he doesn't do that as often. It's something he doesn't do as often. Now, I know he does it in sparring. He walks down fighters in sparring. And we've seen him of late in exhibitions and in fights walking down guys. But you see he gets hit with shots. He gets hit a lot more when he's walking a guy down, whether it's Zab Judo. Of course, he makes adjustments, and soon you're not landing anything on him. So you don't want that to happen. Okay? And he's a guy, he will fight all 12 rounds. And if he needs a stoppage, he's going to pull that shit out of his ass. So you saw what he was doing against Logan Paul. He was going for the kill. Okay, so you really want to be a calculated, smart fighter like he is. I have a good game plan. Have a good trainer who's giving you instruction. You don't have to have all these mad skills, but you need to have a good game plan. You don't need to be as skilled as he is. All right, skills is not everything. So when people say, the black American fighters have the most difficult style, I I don't I don't categorize people like that. Do I think it's a very elaborate style? Yes. It's a very elaborate style. There's a lot of nuance and stuff involved in it. Absolutely. But to say they're the most difficult, I wouldn't say that. I believe it's like saying you have to go face Floyd Mayweather, and they're just saying everybody's saying he's the most difficult fighter to face. He's only as difficult as you envision him to be difficult. There's always a way to beat somebody in boxing. Always. Always a way to beat somebody in boxing. And if you can execute the game plan, you can do it. And he can be beat. Anybody can be beat in boxing. So you can't put this guy up on a pedestal and keep him up there. Okay? Has anybody ever beaten him? No. Okay? But that's what you have to do with the guy. You have to be able to make adjustments. You're gonna have to slight adjustments, but you got to make the adjustments. Um, and I'll give you a scenario. I Carlos Marcos Maidana caught Floyd with that counter right hand. He threw 1-2. It was just a simple 1-2, and he stayed off to the side and he landed the 2, right, which neutralized and countered the pull counter, right? Floyd never again got caught with that shot because two things he was doing. When he ever did the pull counter, he had to pivot it off to the side, so he would pull and then counter and then roll off to the side, dip and roll off to the side, or he would pull, counter, and then he would roll in and clinch, right? So that neutralized Marcos Maidana's 1-2. Andre Ward against Sergey Kovalev, same thing. Sergey Kovalev caught him with the 1-2 as he was trying to pull counter over Sergey Kovalev's jabbing hand, right? Because one of the neutralizing factors of a pull counter is the 1-2. But then there is a move to neutralize the 1-2 and still get the pull counter off. And Floyd pull counters to the inside of the jab. He pull counters to the inside. So his head, when he does the pull counter, right, he pulls back this way. He pulls back this way, but he's pulling to the inside of the jab. The jab is over here, okay? Whereas, I'm talking about a jab coming at him, okay? The jab coming at him, okay, so, I don't see. All right, so the jab will be over here. He's on the inside of the jab. And he does that, it's a psychological thing, and he's so quick. He does that because he pull counters to the inside to show you, you ain't shit. That's what he's basically saying to you. I can pull counter to the inside of your jab because you ain't shit. He pull counter to the outside of the jab is kind of safer because the jab is kind of blocking the cross. So a guy, if I jab here, let's say, I'm gonna exaggerate. I jab here. I'm not gonna cross over this way. I'm gonna cross with my jab over here. See, boom, boom, right? So guys generally, to keep it safe, they pull to the outside of the jab to cross over it, right? To throw their 2 over it. And then you can also dip as you're, so if I slip here, I can dip down this way and crank her overhand right. You understand? Floyd doesn't do that. He's up in your face. Literally up in your face. He also uses the spear jab to the inside of the jab as well. He'll spear jab you on the inside. So I know all of these things because I studied the guy. He's right up in your face. He even showed Devin Haney how to do that. And it's gutsy. And people will say, well, man, you could get tagged. Say, they won't tag you because you right up in their grill. And they see your intent. It's all about intent. If your intent is to get to them, they forget that they could counter you. See, it's all bluff, and it's all poker, and chest going on in there. So you're bold. You're right up in their grill where you shouldn't be, but you're like, I'm king of this mountain. I'm taking my stakes. All right, but they actually can get hit. It's a risky move. So um, yeah. So with Mayweather, that's the game plan you need to have to beat him. You're not gonna beat him by, it's an exciting fight. I mean, Marcus Maidana walking down Floyd and roughing him up and stuff. It's exciting, but it's his game. That's you're playing into his hand. Now in the second fight, he didn't fight off the ropes as much as he did in the first fight. But he was picking off Marcus Maidana's shots. Yeah, Marcus Maidana did land a couple good body shots on him actually. Um, but he was mostly picking him off, especially later on in the fight. He was picking him off and counterpunching him quite a lot. And Marcus Maidana's success with the overhand right actually diminished as the fight went on. And then Floyd actually used the overhand right on Marcus Maidana, which was kind of crazy. He took what Marcus, he learned from Marcus Maidana the shot and how to throw it in the fight and used it back on him, which is very impressive. All right, so and that's the thing with Floyd. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, and don't marvel at it, but it's incredible. But if you gotta face him, just bear this in mind. He learns from you. What I mean by that is, every fighter he fights, he will assimilate something that fighter does and use it back on him. Okay? Because Floyd, in the fight, he uses what you do. I saw it against Jose Luis Castillo as well, where Castillo was throwing, he was throwing a counter left hook, right? And then all of a sudden, Floyd was throwing the counter left hook. I was like, what? This first fight. You got to go watch it. He's picking up, he's learning from you. He's picking up what you do, your mannerisms, your timing, your speed, your rhythm. He's learning from you how you throw your punches, and he gives his version of that back at you. That's the difference between him and other great fighters who disarm their opponents. So Bernard Hopkins, he would take away what you do well. Andre Ward would take away what you do well. But Floyd is literally assimilating, as Al Bernstein said, he's a Borg. He's assimilating what you do. He's learning you. And then he's using you back on yourself. That's interesting. Gabrielle says, I think tomorrow the jab will make Fury win against White. Yes. Yes, I think so too. I think the jab's going to be a key in that fight. If Fury fights on the inside, but we'll see if Fury tries to bully Dillian and make him back up. That's what I'm interested in seeing. Look at Floyd versus Maidana too. In the first round, Floyd landed at least 15 body jabs. Yes, he's going to the body all the time. And won the round with just one hand. By the way, he switched suddenly to a left hook and caught Maidana clean. Yep. He was and the jab to the body. The thing about it is, it's kind of hard to counter that. So it's a low risk, and he perfected that. And he has his own way of throwing that jab to the body. He does it two different ways. I studied the dude. Andre Ward has his version of that. You look at Sugar Ray Robinson used to use it as well as Oscar De Hoya, but they bend to one side and throw it, right? That's the old school way. Floyd would literally squat. He would literally drop his whole body weight. You know who else does something like that? Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. has ridiculous pivot work as well as he's able to squat down and get those shots off. And, I think Floyd learned from Pernell Whitaker because Pernell Whitaker was the master of the squat. He would squat, a lot of squats, just squat to change levels, get under shots and stuff like that. Floyd learned a lot from Pernell, I think. Maidana busted Floyd's lip with a huge forearm in round 6, accidental. Gabrielle Scorati said, I studied Floyd too. Okay, nice. Yeah, I've studied this dude because I always wanted to know how to beat him. I know everybody can be beaten, but yeah. So, And I saw Cotto almost. Well, he didn't beat him, but I saw Cotto win round after round after round. From round 7 to round 11, Cotto took those rounds. He also won round 5. And if Cotto had taken round 12, he would have kept his title. He would have kept his title. But Floyd was able to, pull a rabbit out of his ass and win that round. But Cotto, man, Cotto. I would love to see a rematch with Cotto and Floyd, but it never happened. But I think Cotto had something there. And Cotto had the size advantage. He had the size advantage on Floyd. He was stronger than him. Just Floyd just had that technique, man. A lot of people don't even understand how good that guy is. Floyd's really, really good. He's really good. Guy's bigger than him, stronger than him. Hit harder than him, and he's still, making these guys look like, another day in the office. Another day just sparring work. They're like sparring work for him. That's crazy. It's insane. There's an easy way to beat Floyd with a shot. Maybe he would not be able to avoid that too. He pulled the Matrix on you. Yeah, that's a good way to I would go in there with an Uzi. I wouldn't even go in there with a shotgun. I wouldn't go with a sword. I'm trying to spray him. I'll try and spray him down. Man, the dude is sick, man. The dude is sick. I give him his props. Another great fighter that we don't really talk a lot about is Andre Ward. Quality, man. Quality. This dude trained his ass off, and he did the uncomfortable things. He fought, uncomfortably for a while. Virgil Hunter had told him he needed to work on his inside game. I see Shakur Stevenson, man. Spray and pray, to say. Spray and pray, they say. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta go in there with an equilibrium kind of skill. Like martial arts with the guns. You gotta go in there with that. But yeah, Andrew Ward is a hell of a fighter, and I think where he shunned so well was his inside game. Andrew Ward actually, you know what I wish that they never will. They never would be the same weight, but I would have loved to seen Andre Ward versus Floyd Mayweather. I think the best sort of matchup I saw with that was with Kayla Plant versus Canelo. And Canelo prevailed in the case because he knocked out Kayla Plant, but I thought Caleb was doing a lot of good work on Canelo. He was doing a lot of good work on Canelo. It just is what it is. Floyd and Andre impressed me the most with their always present head control. Yeah, they body check you too. Not just head control, they body check you. And the thing with it is that the lead hand, people don't even shit. Do you see why he stared Marcos Maidana into the ropes using the lead hand? The dude's gloved, and he basically like a martial arts move. He basically used the lead hand here. Marcos Maidana slides by here, and then he just turns him in this way, and he wheels him that way. And Marcos is going that way. You know what I'm saying? The dude, see, now you paying attention, because these dudes be doing things outside of just punching that keeps their opponents from punching them back. And nobody pays attention to that for some reason, right? When he bumps you with the shoulder to make space so he can hit you with the right hand, or when he body checks you. What I mean by that is, so if you're in close with a guy, right? I'm in close with you, right? I'm here, you're facing me, right? Right? I seen Josh Taylor do this, where he was roll up and in on you, and then I'm gonna body check you like this, right? So I do like this, all in a nice move. It's almost like I'm throwing a hook, but I body check you to get you to go this way. So these guys literally, in clever, smart ways, move their opponent and manipulate their opponent into the direction they want them to go in the ring. I seen him. I'm seeing him manipulate. How he manipulated Pacquiao was just. In fact, he was a bully against Pacquiao because he would headlock him and hit him with shots. He was roughing him up. He was really roughing up Pacquiao on the inside. Like Pacquiao had no inside game, none, zero. So Floyd was doing anything he wanted to do on the inside, you know. And I thought that you know, you gotta, yeah, they push you around, they bully you. He's bullying, he bullied Pacquiao on the inside, and a lot of people don't understand that's part of boxing, and some of it is illegal, no doubt about it, and some of it is not, you know, and so, and I've seen him extend the lead hand and push a guy away, like he would extend, like he extends the lead hand and he would freeze you, just like what Canelo did with Kayla Plant. He'd freeze you and then hit you with a shot. We're like, go watch Jose Luis Castillo 1, where Floyd pushed Jose. He pushed him off this way because he was off at an angle. So he was here off at an angle against the ropes, and then when Castillo threw the punch and leaned in, Floyd pushed him off this way and had his lead hand here. So he's got him here. So Castillo's hand's still out in the air like this, right? And Floyd's caught the hand in between here, and then he pushes it back this way to get enough space, and then he hits him over and right. Bam! So funny, man. So funny. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm cussing, you know. I'm like, this mother. So there's a lot of all these subtle things in there that a lot of people don't see, like Hopkins versus Trinidad. I guarantee you Hopkins was roughing up Trinidad again on the inside. And people are not seeing these parts of the fight. They're not seeing all this little stuff. Which to me is, and I understood now why guys couldn't counter Floyd, or they couldn't, because he'd take it away from you. He'd take the angle and the position away from you. You know, he'd use his forearm to do a lot of things in those fights, and people don't pay attention to that. You know. Anyways, yeah. But that's how you beat a Floyd Mayweather, I believe. That's the game plan you have to beat him. And I think if you execute it properly with whatever skill sets you have, I think you do much better. By the way, I think Castillo fairly lost both fights. The first one was razor thin close, but a win is a win. I thought Castillo came from behind, yeah, but he came from behind too late. I think he lost. I think he even lost the 7th round. So I think Floyd swept him for 6 rounds, and I even think he lost the 7th round. I know he got the 8th round. Oh no. I think Floyd got the 8th round as well, because Castillo got penalized a point. And Floyd was winning that round. Floyd lost the 10th for sure. He lost the 10th. He lost the 9th for sure. Castillo won the 9th. The 11 was up. The 11 was up in the air, you know, and the 12th you could give to Castillo or you could give it to Floyd. I think Castillo could have won the championship rounds. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have Castillo winning more than 4 rounds, the whole entire fight. And I think Sky Sports had it 9-3, 8-4. I don't know where people think that Castillo won that fight. How are you gonna win the fight and you getting swept for the first, even if it's the first 4 rounds, even if you want to argue that, you get swept the first 4 rounds, right? You win. Let's say you win. I don't know. Let's say you win round 5 or round 6 or round 6. I don't care. You're coming back in the fight. You're not really landing much of anything, but you're more aggressive. You're throwing more punches. You're more active. You know, so you're coming back in the fight, right? Even in round 10, which Floyd lost, which was kind of like a toe-to-toe thing, and in round 11, it was toe-to-toe as well, Floyd was catching a lot of Castillo shots. Now, Castillo was landing some pretty good body shots, don't get me wrong. But Floyd was mostly picking off the shots and hitting Castillo with some shots across the head. He's catching him to the body and the head. I remember he threw like a 5-punch combination, and he landed like about three of those 5 punches. I'm talking money shots on Castillo. You see, Castillo got a bloody nose. Floyd broke his nose, you know what I mean? I don't understand how Castillo won that fight. I really can't understand it. And I agree with you. I don't think Castillo won that fight. I think Floyd won the first 5 easy. Yes. Coming back from 5 rounds is very hard. Exactly. I mean, and Castillo always comes on hard in the second half of the fight. That's when he really turns the juice on. I thought Floyd knocked him down in the, I think it was the second or the third round. I thought Floyd knocked him down. So I don't understand how Castillo could have won that fight. I mean, he should have, that that round should have been a 10-8 round. And then, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, Larry Merchant never really liked Floyd Mayweather. Let's be real. Um, Larry Merchant never really liked Bernard Hopkins. Never really liked Roy Jones Jr. And these were phenomenal fighters. I say it again. Bernard Hopkins is a phenomenal fighter. The accomplishments he's had, and Larry Merchant just kind of just totally like destroyed the joy and the fun of seeing these kinds of fighters. I think Floyd won the. Castillo was super frustrated. Oh yeah, he hit him. He hit him. He hit him in the back. He hit him in the kidneys a couple times. Floyd was laughing and watching the ref like, "What's going on here?" He was totally frustrated. uh, and was clearly favored by the referee being allowed to punch behind his butt. Yes, you remember that? I remember that. Yeah, he was frustrated. Floyd actually laughed. You know, and Floyd was positioning Castillo different places. Like people didn't see this. Like dude's taking his forearm in his hand and actually pushing Castillo back and setting him here to hit him with a jab or hit him with a shot. I like. How aren't you guys seeing that? Don't you see that Floyd's in complete control of the fight? Apparently they did. It is what it is. I mean, dude's a phenomenal fighter, and Castillo came in a welterweight. Castillo was like 140, I think it was 148 pounds. Floyd was like 135, 136. You're a welterweight fighting a lightweight, right? And Floyd was doing that to him. I mean, come on, man. You know, and this is not just any welterweight. You know, Castillo's like a premier lightweight. He is the lightweight champion. He is the dude of the division. And this is what Floyd did to him. But, you know, a lot of people didn't really give Castillo respect till after the Floyd Mayweather fight when he fought Diego Corrales particularly. Um, how good a fighter he was, you know. And even to this day, I tell people Castillo's going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Y'all don't. And people be tripping. They'll be like, no, he's never going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame. But I'm like, dude, this man was the titan of the lightweight division. He was the lightweight man. He beat everybody except for Floyd, you know. And he actually fought Ruslan Provodnikov. This this crazy mother. He fought Provodnikov. He fought Ricky Hatton. Okay. Afterwards, you know. So when he was not at lightweight, that's not even his preferred weight, whatever. And it was just so crazy because this dude. I mean, come on now. I mean, but they saying he wouldn't be in the boxing hall. I don't understand these people. You got to be crazy. That dude got to go into the boxing hall of fame. All right. Uh, some in a career, he's basically a career lightweight, right? Um, but yeah. So I don't believe that there's any style out there that is the most difficult style. I don't believe that, right? And far less when people say, you know, black American style of boxing. Yes, there is a kind of style, something like that, like how they say Mexican style, but it's not really, you say Mexican style, but there's no style that's Mexican style, really. When we talk real boxing, we understand there's counter punchers, and there's pressure fighters, there's boxer punchers, and so on, right? That's the real styles, right? But they like to say, you know, this style comes from Mexico, or this style belongs to this ethnicity, but it's not really that way. So that's the first thing. But let's go with that. Let's engage it. Black American style of boxing is most difficult style. No, it is not. No, it is not. There's no such thing as a most difficult style. I believe in my heart of hearts that yes, it's very elaborate. I'll give you that. Right? But there's always a game plan you can use. And I'm going to give you one more person who I believe uh, should never have beaten these dudes if that is the case. Chris Eubank Sr. versus this guy's name. I'm forgetting his name now. That's not good. But it'll come to me, right? Like, it'll come to me. Uh, Irish guy. The Irish guy that faced Chris Eubank Jr. and beat him twice. Okay? He beat him twice. And he didn't have the skills and the abilities that Chris Eubank Jr. had. But he was able to get in his head mentally and beat him. All right? Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Exactly, Gabriel Squarati. The most difficult style is a style in boxing that you are most uncomfortable facing. I like that. That's brilliant. And I still don't think it's the most difficult. I think you could say it's the most challenging. Because, again, if I had to think as a fighter, I can't think that this is the most difficult. That's dumb. Then that means, oh man, I can't succumb to this. But if I say it's the most challenging, and most boxers live for a challenge, all work is easy work, man. All work is easy work. You know? That's the mentality you have to have in boxing. You can't have the mentality of what fans have. Oh man, that's a difficult style. Or trainers. Like when I hear Canelo's trainers say, you know, the Black American style is the most difficult, it makes me say, dude, what are you talking about? You can't say that. You don't have the answers for it. Is that what you're saying? Because you are admitting that you are not capable of dealing with that style. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. So be careful what you say. If you want to say it's the most challenging style, that's different. Difficult. Difficult means I don't know if I can surmount this or not. Challenging, I got something to go for, you know. And even so, I don't necessarily believe it's I don't believe it's that challenging either. I think that at the end of the day, it's about in boxing. If you want to break down boxing, boxing's about getting in position, making sure you're at the right angle to hit a guy and him not hit you, right? So you get in position, you throw your shot, and you get out. Entry, exit. A shot has to go in and come out. And in between that time, you got to make sure your opponent's not in position to hit you. Right? To me, that's the sweet science of boxing. And it doesn't matter if you run a whole 100 miles in that ring or if you're standing in front of the guy and he still can't hit you. The important thing is hit and not get hit. That's what I understand boxing to be. Now, some guys, they like to just rock it out and they're hitting each other, and it's a tough man contest somewhat. Who's tougher? More power to you. Maybe I might enjoy some of those fights. Maybe I won't. But me, personally, as somebody going into that ring, I'm not trying to do it that way. Okay? I want to have my faculties and just how I'm talking to people, I want to have that at the end of fighting somebody. At the end of a fight. If I can keep most of that, then I'm happy. Floyd's biggest strength is the ability to change plan on the fly. Right, so he assesses what he's seeing in front of him. That's correct. You know. And so, as you say, the ability to adapt, make adjustments, right? So that's his thing. That's what he does best. And he keeps his composure under every situation, and he slowly works the scenario out. Yes, that's what he does. That's what I think about it. This is a summary of everything. Thank you for tuning in. Gabrielle Squarati. Is it Squarati? I hope I'm getting your name correct, sir. If you ever enter the ring and box in any kind of capacity, I wish you the best. That's what I have ahead of me. And so you have to take the sports very, very seriously. I try to do that as best as I can and learn as much as I can. I'm gonna catch you guys later. I am what you need. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm trying to do some more videos on a regular. If you would do want to don't so you have boxed before. Okay, that makes sense. Now that makes sense. Um, so if you do want to kind of just missing the mafia accent. Squarati. Squarati. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I'm just gonna catch you guys later. Yeah, you can donate to the channel via my PayPal. I'll put it in the comment section below. And I wish you guys a really good day, man. Today is Friday, the 22nd of April already. So we got a big fight over this weekend. Uh, Tyson Fury versus Dillian White. A very anticipated fight for Dillian White. I'm really happy for him. And now let's see him perform. And let's see if he can perform as well as he could. I mean, I don't know if he can fight well going backwards. So Fury gonna test that. Fury gonna test a number of different things with Dillian. Dillian has been the sparring partner of Fury. So he kind of knows what to expect in some ways of what Fury does. So it should be a good fight. It should be a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. And may the best man win. All right, what you need out. I'm gonna come back with another video, so stay tuned for that. And I got 2 other videos I gotta bring up, but I'm gonna do it at some point today. I got some other things I gotta do today. All right, people. Peace.